The president will take the case for a strike against Syria to the public in a nationally televised speech Tuesday night. Jerry Seib continues with us with three things to look for in that address. Jerry, you write that the first argument we expect from President Obama is a moral one. What do you mean by that?
Well, he's going to say essentially we can't stand by as the world community and watch a country use poison gas on its own people. That we have a moral responsibility here. I think secondly, he's going to try to make better an argument that proponents of action think he hasn't made particularly well, which is the national security argument. Here's why American security is threatened if bad actors and bullies can amass and use chemicals of mass destruction. But then I think he's also going to make the credibility argument that you may not agree with me that military action is the best solution here, but I think you should be able to agree with me that if the U.S. threatens to do something and then doesn't follow through, the loss of credibility and the loss of effectiveness of American threats and its word it can have serious consequences around the world. So those are the three main arguments I think that we're going to hear tomorrow night.
And the credibility argument is the one that has a lot of nuances in it, right? When I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, the moral one's fairly simple. The national security one is a little less simple, but still fairly simple. The credibility. And you make the point that it's fairly easy to make the case that yes, credibility is important most of the time, but maybe people can see that this is a very gray area. There's a lot of bad people on both sides in this civil war, and maybe the U.S. it's quite understandable the U.S. would want to sit this one out.
Well, that's what, some people who aren't eager to see military action are making that argument. Look, that this is a borderline case. Everybody in the world understands that. They're not going to equate this with a situation in which American interests are clearly on the line, and so therefore our credibility is not really going to be eroded. In different circumstances, people will reach different conclusions. On the other hand, you're going to hear the president say, I'm quite sure that if we are saying to the Syrians, you cannot use chemical weapons, they use them and there is no consequence, what are the Iranians going to believe when we say you cannot develop a nuclear weapon or there will be consequences? Well, they believe there will be consequences. And that's only the first instance. There's also the question of, will the Iraqi government take U.S. security promises seriously if it looks as if the U.S. is backing away from its role in the Middle East? Will the Egyptian military have reason to listen to the U.S. when it says, temper your push against the Muslim Brotherhood in your own streets, when it looks as if maybe the U.S. is receding as a player in the region to begin with? So there are other places in the Middle East, and that leaves aside the rest of the world, where there may very well be a credibility issue if the U.S. threatens, blusters, and doesn't act.
Okay, and one of the key actors in the Middle East is, of course, Israel, which has nuclear weapons and is small and is being constantly threatened by Iran. Is there a risk, a credibility risk, if the U.S. doesn't act, Israel will feel threatened and decide to strike against Iran first?
Well, I think that's a question, and people will debate how serious that risk is. I do think the fact is that the Israelis have gotten more comfortable over the last couple of years with the idea that President Obama is serious when he says, I will not allow the Iranian regime to develop a nuclear weapon, and I will take actions as necessary to make sure that doesn't happen. I think the Israelis sort of had come to believe that and were comfortable holding back a little bit, waiting to see what the Obama administration could work out, and confident that there was a possibility of military action if nothing came to pass. The question now is, will they still believe that possibility exists if the U.S. takes a pass on Syria? Okay,
so that's what we will be looking for on national TV tomorrow night. President Obama speaking. We'll see how it all shakes out. Thank you very much, Jerry Seib. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks, Simon.